Not all probiotics are created equal. New Purina Systemic Supplement remains live and active after the pelleting process and throughout the digestive system, making it all the way to the hind gut. Systemic was designed to support normal recovery after exercise and occasional gastrointestinal stress. Whether you're using a probiotic now or not, it's time to use a live and active supplement from a name you trust. Visit mq.purinamills.com to try Purina Systemic Probiotic Supplement today.
You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Greetings, everyone. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily, episode 1581, brought to you today by RideTV. Today's tip features the Horses in the Morning co-hosts Glenn and Jamie, and their guest Angela Ferraro-Fanning, who answers all the questions you were afraid to ask about composting and manure management.
You can enjoy your favorite equine videos all in one place with RideTV, the ultimate equine streaming platform. The newly relaunched RideTV has all the series you love, like Rockstar Vets and Mini Horses, plus top-tier training videos and event footage from barrelracing.com and Horse and Rider on Demand. Whether you're ready to relax with your favorite series, binge watch competition footage, or train with a world champion, subscribe to RideTV today for only $19.99 to see where your ride takes you. Visit ridetvgo.tv to subscribe.
Well, she's been coming on our shows for years. She's out of New Jersey, and she's a homesteader. Her name is Angela Ferraro-Fanning. She's the author of The Sustainable Homestead. She knows everything there is to know about homesteading, and she does know about horse poop because she has some very big horses who poop a lot. Remind everybody how many horses you have and what they are.
I've got 4 drafts now.
Yeah,
I've got a Belgian, a Percheron, and I have 2 Clydesdales. So I've got the big guys.
That's a lot of poop right there.
It is. It is. We have to work hard to manage it, but we do it. We get it done.
I always, when you clean the poop, especially in the fields, I determine how big the horse is by how many scoops it takes, right, to get the poop. To get one pile of poop, like my pony's 1 scoop easy. Jennifer's horse, though, is a scoop. He's a big thoroughbred. He's like a scoop and a part. Yours are probably 2 scoops for sure.
Well, I got to be honest. I don't scoop it because I have a flock that I use in my pasture rotation management system, and they break it all apart, and it degrades and feeds the soil. So I don't pick up my pastures at all. And
you have a what that you use?
I do rotational grazing with the horses, and then I let the sheep go through. But then I let my flock of ducks, geese, and guinea fowl go through. We've talked about the guineas before.
Yeah.
I know the guineas are loud, but they are amazing because it's gross. Okay, but it's nature. They scratch in the manure piles and they blow it apart. They're looking for the flies, the insects. They ingest larvae. And then when you have that poo that's all broken up into teeny tiny little pieces, you get a good rain through, it washes it, soaks it into the soil. You've got fertilizer. You added organic matter. And I don't have to haul it.
You need a bigger flock of birds there, Jamie. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, man, I really want me some more guinea fowl. They're so fun.
We saw some at a farm down the street from ours the other day, and I went, oh, I thought of Angela. We had a little discussion of guinea fowl. So
we don't need to get into that again, but you know how I feel about that.
Angela, we have you on to talk about composting, but I wanted to say, when it comes to fields, the farm rental we have now, which is down the street from our new farm, which we hopefully are going to get in next week, we talked about this in the show yesterday, dung beetles, and we've always had the big dung beetles before that are, look like beetle-sized beetles.
Yeah.
Here we have the teeny-weeny little ones that are about the quarter size of a fingernail, and there are like 100 of them in every poop pile. In a half a day, this poop is just completely disintegrated and these are the most efficient dung beetles I've ever seen.
That's crazy. Well, you must not use, your deworming protocol must be good and in balance then.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you the dung beetles are happy. So
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
I know. I just take it and spread it around. I don't have to pick it up. I'm just like you now. So without the chickens.
There you go.
Without the chickens.
Yeah.
So you did, one time before we talked about this, can you explain the different types of composting there is?
Sure. So usually when it comes to animal manure, we're talking about heaping it up outside somewhere, right?
Right.
And so we're not going to put it in a container necessarily that we close the lid that's typically used for something like kitchen scraps. And hopefully you're not bringing in manure from the outdoors and putting it in a bucket for compost on your kitchen counter. Hopefully we're talking all the same thing about a massive heap somewhere. And when you pile it up, there's two types of compost. There's hot composting, and then there's cold or just letting it sit. Here's what the difference is. With cold composting, piling it up, letting it naturally do its thing, it's going to break down, but it's never going to get hot enough to kill weed seeds, different pathogens, or even some parasitic larvae. So while we definitely see a decrease in the amount of manure that's in that pile, it's not technically, quote unquote, usable in a garden space because all of the weeds and grass seed that the horse has ingested hasn't broken down. So it's just going to end up coming back and growing. So this is where we say, okay, if we want to use compost, for the quote unquote garden gold that it is, we need to actually get it hot enough that it's going to kill weed seeds, grass seeds, and then also as a benefit, it's going to kill, parasitic larvae and that sort of thing. So the hot compost, we tarp it. And that's what we do here at our homestead is I make a good old heap, big pile. When it gets big enough that it starts to get a little freaky to drive my four-wheeler over it and dump any more on top of it, that's when I tarp it. And I mean just a regular tarp you buy at the hardware store. I anchor it down with bricks and I just let it sit there and do its thing. Now I know that there's a lot of passionate composters out there who talk about watering their compost, turning it, aerating it. I'll be honest with you, I have had just as much success just tarping it and leaving it alone. And it takes a lot less time to break down because it gets so hot while it's killing all of those things that your compost is going to be ready in just a few months, as opposed to like 9 months plus as it would be with cold compost method, where you can't really end up using it anyway.
So a question about that, because, we've all been around a pile of compost that is not tarped and you kick it around and it's burning on the inside of it. So is that something that is concerning when you are putting a piece of plastic over it? Like it's going to catch on fire?
There are people that say that their compost heaps catch on fire, especially if they live in a hot climate. Maybe then that would be a situation where somebody would need to worry about watering it, turning it. Here where I am in Zone 7, central New Jersey, I've never had a compost heap get hot enough that it spontaneously combusts into flames.
How about Florida?
No.
Yeah. I feel like we're bursting into flames sometimes.
But I think the other thing that comes into play is it needs to be well balanced in terms of ingredients, right? So a lot of us think, we'll just take manure out of the field. For example, we talked about that just a few minutes ago, and I'll pile it up. When you do that and you don't introduce any other, we call them brown or carbon ingredients. These are things like straw, leaves, sticks, even cardboard, things that are very fibrous materials. When you don't have enough of that, your compost heap is just straight manure or even food scraps or a combination of the two. You have so much nitrogen going on, it's going to be out of balance. It's not going to decompose properly. The rule of thumb is you don't want half and half. You don't want half manure, food scraps, and then half, all of the dead fibrous materials I mentioned. What you actually need is only 1/3 manure or green ingredients, and the other 2/3 needs to be that fibrous carbon-based material. And that is what a good compost recipe consists of. Now, am I walking around my farm with measuring cups and scales and making sure I get that just right? No. But what I am doing is I am taking the stuff that I clear out of my stalls, which not only contains manure, but contains pine pellet bedding because it breaks down faster. That's what I choose to use. and I toss that in the heap. There's fallen scraps of hay and straw that I go in there. I know there's some horse farmers around me that are very meticulous about making sure they only get manure in their heaps. But that's never really going to truly break down as well or as efficiently as if you don't have a balanced system of carbon and nitrogen.
That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about having hay and straw in it and leaves and things like that. And I was thinking, is that a bad thing? It sounds like it's a good thing.
No, you need that. Definitely.
Okay.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
And you don't turn yours at all. Jamie just talked about how they do hers, and her husband loves to get out there and, turn it. But you don't turn yours at all?
No. So when I first started composting, I had it nearer to my horse stable than what I do now. And so it was more accessible to me. And so I would go over there, I would stir it. I experimented with a thing you may have heard of where people take a massive pipe, like a huge PVC pipe, and then they drill holes in the side of it. And you stick it in the middle of the heap. So that way air comes in through the pipe and then it goes out through the little holes that you've drilled in the sides and helps to circulate air into the center of the pile, which in theory is supposed to help it break down faster. I personally have noticed no difference from turning it to using a pipe as to when I just tarp it and let it go. I think the other thing is if you have a good earthworm population, they're disturbing the structure of that compost. So they're kind of, in a way, turning it for you.
I can't imagine the amount of dung. When I pick up a pile of poop out here with those little dung beetles, there's like 100 of them in there. I can't imagine how many would be in the compost pile right now. So yesterday I was on with Karen, who lives out, one of my co-hosts, and she lives out in Nevada where it's high desert, right? And I asked her what she does, and she composts wet composts or, hot compost like you would call it. She called it wet composting. And what she does is she does like 4 piles she rotates, and she doesn't turn it, but she does wet it. And she puts everything in there. Her household, anything that can decompose, she puts in the pile with her horse manure. And she said she lets it go for 4 years before she uses it on the garden. And then she was complaining yesterday that she has more zucchini than God. So, because, everybody plants way too many zucchini plants. I mean, you only need one.
Right.
So, she said it works great, but she composted for 4 years. How long do you let it go for before you put it on a garden?
That's a long time. Yeah, so if she's wet composting, that'd be one thing. And if she's in Nevada, she's in the desert, so she probably is gonna have to add moisture. Here in New Jersey, I'm considered a wet climate, so I don't have to wet it. We get plenty of rain. Nature takes care of it for me. But I tarp it, and when you tarp it, you're trapping all of that heat. And I think I could be misremembering what I read, but I believe it's 180 degrees Fahrenheit is what you want that compost heap to get to for it to be ready. So essentially, it's not even about the duration of time. It's not even about saying, oh, well, it's ready in 3 months or it's ready in 4 years. It's about when your compost heap gets hot enough, and when you pick it up and you kind of sift it with your hands, are any of the ingredients recognizable? If it just looks like earth and organic matter, then you can, and the temperature is correct, then you can use it and it's considered ready. Whereas if you're picking it up and you still see hay bits, maybe bits of manure in there, it's definitely going to need more time.
Oh, that's a good measurement to use. And when you're putting it on the garden, let's say, how much of it do you use? Can you overdo it?
Well, yes and no. It kind of also depends on the ingredients are in there. So if you have not a good balance of your nitrogen to your carbon, right, your manure to your dead leaves and straw and sticks, then you're going to end up having a very nitrogen-heavy compost. And too much nitrogen is not a good thing. It can burn your plants. So it's sort of another reason why you want to make sure that you're at least close to balancing out your ratios with that 1/3, 2/3 rule. Now, compost isn't really a fertilizer. It has to break down and go into a liquid form in order for plants to drink up the nutrients that it contains. Plants don't eat solids. They drink liquid. So while compost absolutely has a lot of nutrients, it's not relevant to the plant until it sits there for a while, becomes water soluble, and the plant can actually soak it up. So rather than think about it as a fertilizer, which eventually it will be when it can liquefy, think about it as a soil conditioner. You're adding organic matter, but even more importantly, you're adding all of that beneficial bacteria and stuff we can't see, the mycorrhiza, all that. You're adding that to the soil, which is going to create healthier soil structure. So in the long run, yes, you get nutrients, but in the short term, you just get healthier soil and better organic matter. So when I top off my gardens in the fall, I add about 1 inch of compost just as a top dressing on top of the entire growing space. And then over the winter time, it breaks down that way. In the spring, when it's time to put those seedlings in the ground, a lot of that compost nutrients is now in a liquid form that the plants can readily take up.
Genius.
I'm learning so much today. I didn't know any of that.
I mean, seriously, I do like the compost, but like I don't do it. I mean, I do my garden in the same place every year. Why haven't I thought of that? Just do it now. Let it soak all winter, and then it's already in there in the spring, as opposed to me just putting it in and then it up. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that.
Plus, in the spring, we're so busy, right? Starting seeds, planting, all that stuff. The last thing you want to do is have to be like, oh, I can't plant yet. I got to put my compost in. I need to let that sit for a couple of weeks. No, just do it now and let it sit over the winter, and then cover it if you can. Cover it with straw, not hay. Hay is full of seed. Cover it with straw. Cover it with even dead fallen leaves from your trees in your yard. That's an excellent mulch. And protect that compost over the winter so we don't lose nutrients that it contains through the sun, because it can solarize. The sun can burn it off.
Is pine needles a good option?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Finally, a use for those things. Perfect.
We both have a lot of pine trees.
There you go.
One other question, and I'll let you go. Are there any risks to using composted manure in edible plants?
That's a great question. So if you decide, let's say you have lettuce that you planted in the spring, and you want to go through and just do another side dressing of compost for whatever reason, maybe you have too much, I wouldn't eat the lettuce right away after you apply that compost. I'd give it some time to chill out. You know, obviously that contains bacteria, both good, but also bad for our gut. The other thing that I do is I don't ever take a carrot out of the ground and just chomp on it. Even though the skin is edible, I like to think, okay, I am putting composted manure on there. Granted that it's not really manure anymore, it's compost. I still scrub my carrots and peel them before I just bite into them and eat them, because they are coming out of the soil. Now, if it was a lettuce leaf and the compost hasn't really touched it or done anything, then sure, I'll rip off a lettuce leaf, I'll rip off a strawberry. But anything grown in the compost, better be safe than sorry. Give it a wash. It's just common
wash
sense.
your carrots and your potatoes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, listen,
radishes.
I love you. You're absolutely fascinating. I love the fact that you know all this stuff. And I'm assuming a lot of this can be found in the book, The Sustainable Homestead.
Yes, I do have a whole chapter, I believe, on composting.
All right. We'll put the link to that. It's still available, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll put
She's like, yeah, buy my book.
And do you have a website, Angela?
I do. My website is axeandroothomestead.com, AXEAND, roothomestead.com.
Thank you, Angela. This has been a joy, as always. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to next time. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Horse Radio Network has thousands of engaging podcasts for horse people, and you can have them sent right to your phone. Just subscribe via your favorite podcast player. This is Coach Jen, and I will be back again soon with another tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements made by guests on the Horse Tip Daily. Please use your own judgment when listening to the tips on this show.